What's up? This is Andrew Callahan from Channel 5. I'm here at Jubilee, and today I'm surrounded by 20 conspiracy theorists.
Boom shakalaka, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, brothers and sisters around the world. I am Krishool, aka the Esoteric Noetic, and today I'm going to be breaking down this video by Jubilee, 20 conspiracy theorists versus Andrew Callahan. And this is gonna be a tight one. This is gonna be interesting because I feel as if I'm on neither camp. A lot of people would call me a conspiracy theorist, but I humbly maintain that anyone that has an understanding of history, an understanding of politics, an understanding of esoteric sciences and what people call the occult, understands that much of what goes on in the world is not privy to the mainstream. And what is not privy to the mainstream sounds like a conspiracy theorist, but to anyone that is actually in the know, there is nothing theoretical about it. I don't deal in conspiracy theories. I always maintain that. I deal in conspiracy facts, unlike the vast majority of conspiracy theorists out there that I find tend to be like drunken twister players that are constantly trying to connect dots that should have no connection whatsoever. I deal in reality. I don't come up with ideas built of air and imagination. I don't make evaluations that are unsubstantiated. I make observations and I uncover things that are actually going on. When most people spend their life playing Xbox and playing pocket billiards and whatnot, they have no understanding about really what's going on in the world. And as a result, they buy into a lot of the mire, a lot of the nonsense. But I would also humbly say that many conspiracy theorists have done little to no work in regards to understanding actual sciences, assimilating much information, and have just taken on this role of being a conspiracy hobbyist, not really uncovering much about what goes on in the world, and therefore buy into crazy conspiracy theories in regards to what is going on that are not grounded in reality. And as a result, they often get called conspiracy theorists in the euphemistic term because, look, classically speaking, in terms of conspiracy theorists, like the idea of conspiracies very much happen within the world. Any person that understands the history of the CIA, understands warfare, realizes that, yeah, much of what goes on happens within enclosed circles in secrecy. As JFK said, secrecy is repugnant to a free society. I think it's evident that, as much as the establishment deals in secrecy, they don't like it when people try to uncover their secrets, and they end up killing you, as they did to JFK. But the reality is that secrets take place. Organizations do actually conspire. Individuals work with each other in order to achieve goals. These are real things. Conspiracies like the 2030 agenda, trying to achieve all of these things. Like, we could list all the many goals. These are actual things that have been uncovered. The only people that are not aware of these are people that just don't want to be aware of this kind of stuff. But with that being said, let's have a listen to what Andrew Callahan has to say in regards to some of the conspiracy theories that are going to be put forth by the conspiracy theorists on this panel. Let's get it.
First thing I want to say to you guys is I'm not here to make anybody look or feel stupid at all. I'm not some kind of like expert debunker. I think that every conspiracy theory has some thread of truth to it, so I'm hoping we can find some middle ground and become friends.
All right. Well, I don't know about that. Not every conspiracy theory has a thread of truth to it. I think there are some conspiracy theories out there that are not conspiracy theories. They're just delusional and should be called as such. And I think it's difficult because anytime you have a conversation with someone that has a different worldview, you need to be, well, I think it's important to be, try to have some kind of congruence, diplomacy, try to be open-minded, but not so open that you get an open infection, all right? That being said, it's also important to have your integrity about you and speak, with truth. There are certain things that we don't know and we should discuss with humility, and there are certain things that we can, for all means and purposes, say are objectively true to any rational, sane person. And then when you move into the realm of dealing with people that are not in that realm, I personally, the best way to deal with people like that, in my honest opinion, is I just don't have that conversation. I mean, a lot of people want to have conversations, want to come to the adult table, as I call it, right, with ideas that are completely delusional. And the problem I have is that a lot of people want to entertain these conversations as if they're actual adult conversations. I don't deal in that world. I think we've reached the point now, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years, where it is self-evident that there are many things that have happened that a lot of people would have considered to be conspiracy theories, right? I mean, I don't know if anyone brought up in the 90s, this is showing my age, would watch Alex Jones talk about some of the things that would be happening in the future, like these draconian lockdown measures, governments with their totalitarian regimes trying to circumvent these globalist policies and so forth, and trying to essentially coerce people into taking experimental magic potions and so forth that would end up, injuring, killing potentially millions, thousands of people. I mean, these all sounded like pretty far out crazy ideas at the time, and I would listen to this kind of stuff and go, with an open mind. But anytime you're speaking about what's going to happen, that to me is the definition of conspiracy theory. To me, a conspiracy facts is something talking about plans that are actually established. That's very different. And look, I absolutely bought into the idea that these things were definitely goals that certain groups were actually trying to accomplish, but whether or not they would actually be achieved, I mean, that's dealing in the potentiality. That's something that is not knowable until it actually happens. And one of the things we've learned is that these things have become conspiracy fact. They moved into the realm of conspiracy theory, into the realm of, this shit, at least a lot of this shit actually happened. And we can talk about Agenda 2130. We can talk about so many of the policies that have been implemented on a political level. These are not conspiracy theories, ladies and gentlemen. But I think this is very different to the kind of ideas that some people tend to run with that are just in the realm of you have not done your work. Do the work if you're going to speak confidently about this kind of subject matter. Anyway, let's have a listen to what some of the panel have to say in regards to some of the claims that Andrew Callahan's going to make.
All right, my first claim is QAnon is a baseless conspiracy theory. There's no evidence of a global cabal of Satan-worshipping, child-trafficking elites that control everything.
I'm quicker than I look,
man. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm a little quicker than I look.
Yeah.
So my issue is with the claim in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
The fact that QAnon may be baseless then means that there is no child trafficking ring going on. That's akin to saying that the Easter Bunny is not real. Therefore, there was no conspiracy to hide Biden mental decline.
Before we proceed, there's definitely horrible child sex trafficking rings that exist in the U.S. Sure. I just think that pedophilia is a pervasive problem among all crests of society. I just think that the rich have an easier time covering it up because they can pay for lawyers and they have money to keep people quiet.
Very true. All true.
That in and of itself is a conspiracy that you just described.
Well, then I'm a conspiracy.
We really need to get our definitions clear on what we define as conspiracy. Otherwise, this is just going to be chatter. All right. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to define that as a conspiracy that rich people try to cover up their tracks. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Obviously, people try to cover up their tracks when they don't want to be discovered. If you're doing something that is considered illegal and you don't want to go to jail for it, you try to cover up your tracks. The more power, the more influence you have. It doesn't require you to have more than a couple of brain cells to figure out that. That would be perfectly understandable that happens. No one's denying that. That's not. I mean, you can call that a conspiracy. Yes, rich, powerful people try to cover up the tracks when they're doing illegal things. I mean, we all try to cover up our tracks when we do things that are considered to be illegal. And for people that are in the realm of, well, I don't ever do anything that's considered illegal, you don't understand enough about the law if you think that. You're breaking a law every single day if you're living in the United States, because the United States is made up of a litany of completely outrageous, insane laws that are most of them are completely unjust and violate your natural rights. Now, granted, something like child trafficking, pedophilia, all this kind of stuff, these are natural crimes that are absolutely egregious. The fact still remains that people are still going to try to cover up these tracks. So, I mean, the argument that that this is a conspiracy in of itself, if you're saying that, yeah, there are rich people who try to cover this stuff. If you want to go with that as your definition, by all means, you can have that. But the real claim here, which is that QAnon doesn't exist, I mean, so what? Whether or not QAnon exists is really not relevant. Are there cabals out there that are political organizations that are involved in child trafficking? They're clearly politicians that are involved in that. Is this organized? I mean, probably. So what? But the fact of the matter is, I mean, whether or not you buy into QAnon, the fact of the matter is that this stuff goes on, and the fact of the matter is that this stuff is covered up. It doesn't require you to make that massive leap to establish the idea of QAnon. But the issue with QAnon is, and this thing popped up around 2017 from what I understand, is this idea that Trump is behind this, that Trump is this messiah figure, he's going to save us from all these problems. This is the messiah complex that a lot of people get into that is somewhat immature, in my humble opinion. This idea that, Donald Trump is going to save us from all of this horrible stuff going on in the world. Yes, Donald Trump, I think, is understandably trying to put an end to a lot of stuff. But the idea of tying him into QAnon and these conspiracies in regards to it, that's when it becomes, well, unsubstantiated.
Subscribe to conspiracy.
I just don't think it's limited specifically to an unnamed, anonymous class of baby-eating elites.
Well, let's say the NGOs that are unnamed, right? We have humans being trafficked in migrant camps going all across Mexico. Somebody pays for that, whether it's NGOs, whether it's the UN.
Yeah.
We have pedophile rings that we know have been exposed throughout the Catholic Church. It's hard to get more elite than the Vatican. Right? Then you have people that are hiding, obviously, what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. So the idea that because we don't know who the tip of the spear is, or that the cobra hasn't shown its head, means that there's no cabal behind the scenes. Somebody is coordinating this. Now, let me put it this way. I wish that there was as much scrutiny being applied to the evidence that we have and that we've presented than there is to the conspiracy theorists that are presenting the evidence, right?
Definitely.
Like, a conspiracy theorist to me is a derogatory claim for people that don't trust establishment narrative, right? But the establishment has done everything they possibly can do to discredit themselves.
And I think
that is actually a very salient point there. I think the euphemism of a conspiracy theorist is someone that doesn't accept established mainstream narrative. I think it would be far more an accurate statement to depict followers of the mainstream narrative over the last 5-6 years as being conspiracy theorists than people that question the mainstream narrative. Because the mainstream narrative, I mean, if we just have a look at the last 6 years, was that, there is a terrible virus going on in the world, and the only way that you can protect yourself from this thing is to take an experimental magic potion that is safe and effective, and it's been trialed, and it's 100% safe. There's no backlash whatsoever. Now, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to get into the science of that, but for anyone that has been following what's going on, and I say this unequivocally, you'll realize that the narrative, the mainstream narrative, had an infinite amount of holes within it, and anyone that bought that, I mean, look, most people bought that just had done no research, and I knew this because and I swear to you on my father's grave, every single person that I spoke to in regards to this topic that was a doctor that had any semblance of understanding of what was going on, within a short amount of time, it became very, very, very clear that their understanding in regards to the science of the magic potions and the data had very little knowledge, or at least my knowledge, because I actually decided to go out and do my own research. When I say own research, just do some basic research, have a look at what the establishment was saying, what the outside of establishment was saying. But anyone that bought into the narrative was buying into it because they'd done little to no research on what was going on. And that's just my honest, humble opinion about it. And I don't care who you are, if you're Neil deGrasse Tyson or if you are some mainstream established doctor. But I think more often than not, over the last 6 years, the people that have been dropping the mainstream talking points have been the biggest conspiracy theorists in history, and the kind of justifications they've had to make in order to hold up some of the narratives have been absolutely laughable. But anyway, I digress.
that the establishment had a hand in creating QAnon. I think it's the sole biggest driving force in making all...
Careful, Andrew. That sounds like a conspiracy theory.
I'm just saying, it's like, if you think about this, right? Like, we know with the Epstein stuff, there were underage sex trafficking rings that existed, right? Now, think about this logical digression from that. And they're eating babies to get adrenochrome so they can be immortal. So think about how different those things are.
And that's disproving the existence of one by continuing to, it's what we call searching for the falsehood, right? So something can't be true because 3 steps down the line, something is...
Damn, this is actually a really good conversation. It's so good to get people that actually know what they're talking about, regardless of their ideological motivation or anything like that. But these people are real good thinkers, and they're actually making really good arguments. You know, this is a real good middle ground conversation here, because at the end of the day, these people are pretty much on the same page, and they're only disagreeing really about just the terminology in terms of what it is a conspiracy theorist and just the narrative that is put forward in regards to what they are. But there's definitely agreement here that this shit is going on, and the salient point here that a lot of conspiracy theorists, you know, whereas they are right about what's going on in terms of child trafficking and all that kind of stuff, but then they take this other leap where they associate other things which there's just no substantiation for. And I find a lot of the people that I speak to say this kind of stuff, like they say, well, or they do this other thing where they say, well, the government was lying about this thing, which is, the government is just an entity. It's like people lied about it. Anytime someone says the government, right, lied about this, therefore they must be lying about everything. This is what I do. It's like people, human beings, they lied about things. Therefore, this person who is also part of the human race must be lying as well. It's just such a silly equivocation. Like, so what? I mean, just because you're a part of an entity, right? Like, doesn't mean that you are now complicit in every single thing that entity has done. You still have to show probable cause, blame, like, to make these loose argumentations that people make, like, well, you know, it was, well, you know, the government lied about this, therefore they must be lying about that. I mean, you have to make a stronger argument. Just like it's a silly argument to say that just because there is child trafficking that is taking place, that it must mean that these child traffickers are harnessing these children for adrenochrome. And it's not to say that that doesn't or does happen, but you need to make stronger, more cogent arguments. And a lot of the times, the leaps that these people make, they're like drunks playing Twister that are just poorly connecting dots. And this is my biggest frustration with either side, whether or not they call themselves conspiracy theorists or people that are just falling into this mass formation mentality.
Untrue.
I think
that doesn't mean the first thing is true. Yeah. We can agree that there are children being trafficked.
Yes.
We can agree that it seems to be some sort of systemic, industrialized component to this child trafficking, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then somebody has to pay for that. Somebody has to organize that.
Yeah.
Somebody with means. Somebody that
Touche.
Could be, I don't know, classified as an elite.
Yeah.
And that could be an elite child conspiracy.
Now, here is an intelligent man. This is a guy that I would like to talk to. Kudos. Respect. That is how you make a conspiracy theorist argument, my friends. That's how it's done. Kudos. Respect, brother.
Right? To traffic children.
Could be a cartel middleman with a bunch of money, man.
And listen, what I would say is this. What people that trust establishment, not that you're one of them, what I wish that they understood is that we agree with them in that I hope I'm wrong.
Right.
Like, the establishment wants me to be wrong, and I want me to be wrong. I don't want there to be children being trafficked.
Right.
And I don't want our government, our taxpayer dollars, having anything to do with it. But I think that a conspiracy theorist used to be called an investigative journalist. We have questions. And I think that those questions deserve to be answered. And I think that that's the issue here. When people say, no, there's no list, stop asking questions, move on, well, then we feel like we should ask some more questions.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna make a point here. There's a lot of sense to what this guy's making. When the way in which this guy's looking at some conspiracy theories, I absolutely agree with everything he's saying. And a lot of people do have questions. A lot of conspiracy theorists, they deal in the realm of like what if, and they post these hypotheticals. They make claims that are not substantiated, but they're possible. They require further investigation. I don't do that. I speak about things that are actually definitively provable. I don't deal in the realm of conspiracy theories and so forth. The people that deal in the realm of conspiracy theories, yes, sometimes they're right, but then sometimes they're wrong. There are a lot of claims people make that are completely unfounded. Like if you're the kind of person that is coming up with ideas that are built of imagination in regards to what may have happened, not everything is a good question, and some of the questions that I think are raised are kind of just silly. And that being said, it doesn't mean that they're not worthy of further investigation. But the problem I have with a lot of conspiracy theories is they say things that are conspiracy theories as if they are fact, just by association. Like the association game people play is just unbelievable to me. Like they play this game, well, don't you know that so-and-so has spoken to this person, that is friends with this person, that must mean they're complicit. And I think it's a ridiculous game. Just because you know someone, just because you are in someone's... In the higher echelons of society, essentially everyone knows everyone. When you're that powerful, just because you happen to have someone as a connection or you work with someone, doesn't mean that you're privy to every single thing that they have done. When people start making these claims, and I find a lot of conspiracy theorists do this, where they start making someone complicit in some wrongdoing and saying, oh, they're working for Israel, they've been bought, just because they happen to be friends with someone that happens to be Israeli or happens to be, I don't know, black. It's a stupid route people tend to go down when they're trying to connect the dots. And that's not a legitimate basis for actually making a claim. It doesn't pass the shit test. And the problem I have is a lot of the conspiracy theories that people come up with, they would not make a summons judgment in court. Like people are just throwing shit on the wall and hoping it sticks. And I don't think that's how you really make a good argument for something.
I feel like it's got to be less than 10% of the population who says there's no list, let's move on.
Yeah,
I think right now it's probably the first time where you see like leftists and conservatives coming together to demand accountability from the government.
No doubt about it.
And I think that QAnon was probably a psyop in of itself by Steve Bannon, Miles Kuo, a variety of strange actors that work with the Watkins family and HN to basically discredit people from actually putting the target where it should have been, which is right in front of our faces. The richest people in the world, most of them you can look their name up. Not saying there isn't people who are just random rich financiers that are anonymous, but you can look at companies like BlackRock, Vanguard. You can look up online. We all have iPhones, right?
Yeah.
Apple, these major social media platforms.
Okay, I like this guy. This guy's my kind of a conspiracy theorist. Like you can call him establishment, but the fact of the matter is he knows his shit. And, that's what I'm going to start calling a conspiracy theorist, someone that actually knows his shit. You're either in the know or you're not. And that's all that matters as far as I'm concerned. This guy's actually speaking sense. I mean, not everything has to be conspiracy theories, but not every to be on either end of this, where you're like, oh, something must be it must be planned, it must be staged, or it's just to me it just comes down to understanding what's going on in the world. But to fall into the spectrum of thinking that when something like this is something a lot of conspiracy theorists do, or I'll give you the exact opposite in a moment of what people that are just followers of the narrative do, is anytime something that happens in society, something happens, there's an automatic denial of any kind of fact that has been reported at the time, because I heard this on news, so therefore it must be bullshit. That's a delusional mentality to have. Like, for instance, with the Charlie Kirk assassination, a conspiracy theorist response, and I say this because a lot of people bought in this narrative, right? Perfectly fine to have conspiracy theories in terms of denying the original, the narrative, when they were still trying to uncover up what was actually going on, who the shooter was and so forth. But people were denying the fact that Charlie Kirk was dead, and people still are. People are making these conspiracies, he didn't actually die. It's, they're people, Charlie Kirk was part of the Freemasons. People would come up with this kind of nonsensical argumentation, right? And just deny the narrative because that's their default, right? But inversely, there are people that would just buy into anything that was reported, not bothering to do any kind of research, just buy into any kind of narrative that was reported, and as it changes, not even bothering to do any kind of trying to figure out if there are other accounts in regards to what's happened, whether or not maybe the shooter was not the actual shooter and so forth. Like, it just requires a bit of research, cross-referencing. If you try to open your mind to different reports and so forth, and you cross-reference information, eventually the picture unveils itself to you. But the problem I have is when people blindly just follow either the narrative or are blindly just so skeptical of anything that they come up with the most irrational ideas and just go with it because they think there's something inherently intelligent about not buying into a narrative.
Platforms have CEOs. The Saudis, the richest people in the world, are operating in plain sight. And so I feel like when you aim the target at this unnamed, mysterious cabal of people eating babies in the hills, you're basically creating a thing that doesn't exist to convince people to look in the wrong direction.
But who is doing that, right? Like you said, we can look up the richest people in the world, but we're everyday people.
Yeah.
We have jobs. We have things that we're supposed to be focusing on that are outside in the realm of information finding. We don't have the time to go through all of the different NGOs that these people have created to hide themselves from this.
Right.
This is the job of journalists. This is the job of our media. Unfortunately, our media has been captured by these same elites that you're talking about, not to bring up another conspiracy theory here, right? But this is what used to be the fourth estate, right? We used to be able to trust journalists to get to the bottom of it so that we, the plumber, didn't have to spend our weekends digging through tax files to be like, oh my God, did George Soros really get $270 million from USAID?
Yeah.
That's not what we planned on doing, right? This was your job. But now the conspiracy theory is anybody that doesn't trust the establishment narrative. They have made us distrust our neighbor and trust the government. They have made us look at each other from a veil of the citizen doesn't have privacy, but the government deserves privacy. This is a matter of national security.
Right.
Well, if it's a matter of national security that we can't know who was selling children, then I think they've answered the question.
I think
Who's selling?
I think the Epstein thing is probably like the biggest potential breakthrough into dismantling some of those blackmail networks that have kept so much of the media and government compliant. But the thing is, whenever people stop trusting the mainstream narrative, which overall I think is a good thing, it makes way for an entire vacuum.
Give me real quick. Sorry to cut you off. Which is a good thing? Distrusting the mainstream narrative or trusting
when
it?
people stop trusting the mainstream narrative and do their own research, generally that's a good thing. However,
I
that
agree
creates
with
a
that.
vacuum where people who are even less reliable can fill the void with just different stuff.
But that's okay though, because information is cleansing. Sunlight is cleansing. But the best part about the conspiracy community, and I didn't start as a conspiracy theorist. I'm a guy that trusts the government. USA, baby. But as you pull at these threads, you start realizing the government has lied to us over and over and over again.
This guy is...
Hell yeah.
That guy was actually really, really good. Very well spoken, very intelligent, very knowledgeable, very grounded. And Callahan did a fantastic job. I mean, I really like this guy. This guy is a shit, knows his shit, regardless of whether or not I don't even think it's right to call this guy. I don't think it's right to call any of them conspiracy theorists within the euphemistic term. They're just people that know their shit and have informed opinions on things, as opposed to people that are just spouting out nonsense, without much research whatsoever. They're the people that I just don't like. If you can make an argument and bring up some receipts to support it, I can respect that. It's when people make low-grade arguments that I find it very disconcerting, to say the least. But that was a well-executed conversational jiu-jitsu session.
I don't even care where this phone leads.